Hi, welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson, joined with my co-host, Anthony Rivardo.
Hey,
And today we're going to be doing a little pregame discussion about the New York Rangers upcoming game against the New York Islanders in about 30 minutes. And yeah.
yep, we're back. Another live stream for you all. It's been a little minute, been about a week or so. So we'll wait for hopefully a couple people to join in here. But if not, we're going to do our normal show as always and just discuss what we think about this upcoming game with the Rangers.
I caught you off guard by doing the intro for you, didn't I?
Maybe just a little bit, yeah. Definitely caught a little bit off guard.
Did I do okay?
I think you did all right. We might have to give you some more reps going forward, some more ice time. I have to give you some more ice time. All right. Well, Kravtsov is playing tonight until he's not.
I'm not going to clap for that.
Until he's no longer playing, probably in period 2, I would assume.
I give him 3 shifts.
Okay.
Before he tears his ACL for the 17th time this season.
Well, Kravtsov in tonight. Shesterkin is going to be in net. Exciting stuff there. And yeah, a big matchup tonight with the Islanders. Of course, rivalry games are always fun, and we'll see how it goes. Eric, what are your thoughts on the game?
One thing that you just scrolled by that I found interesting is the goaltending matchup is going to be Shesterkin versus Varlamov. So the Islanders aren't even going to be playing Sorokin against us, who is making his own case for the Vezina Trophy this season so far. So Islanders playing their backup against us. This could be like an opportunity to just score like 5 or 6 goals tonight, or we could just get goalied again and put up like 1 goal, because the offensive struggles have been there recently. We've talked about Kreider recently. Zibanejad, as we know, has not scored a single even strength goal this season so far. All of his goals have come on the power play or shorthanded somehow, but the offense has been lacking for the New York Rangers recently.
Yep, it sure has been. No Ryan Reeves tonight. He's a healthy scratch once again. Interesting decision. And I guess we're still waiting to see what the lines are going to look like tonight. I'm not sure why I'm unable to find that right now. I feel like it's close enough to game time. But that's really the main storyline going into tonight. What will the New York Rangers lines look like? Obviously, this previous game, Rangers lost. Chris Kreider sent all the way down to the 4th line by game's end, and then in practice the next day, he was playing with the 3rd, I believe, and they had Panarin on the 1st like he was to close out that game. So we'll see what the lines look like tonight. But, Eric, how are you feeling about Chris Kreider going into this game, coming off of a mid-game demotion?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously Chris Kreider's had his problems throughout the last couple of games, especially last game. And throughout our last video, we talked about the lines that we saw during practice. We're assuming they are going to be the final lines for tonight. I'm sure we'll find them soon once they get announced. But the fact that they haven't been announced yet is interesting, because, the second and the third line projections that we saw were interchangeable. They said the second line might become the third line, the third line might become the second line. But in my opinion, based on what we've seen, I would like to see Chris Kreider still on the second line. I think he is still a great hockey player. 9 points through 13 games is not bad in any aspect whatsoever. So demoting him that far down into the bottom 6 might be a little controversial, might be a little extreme, a little too far. So yeah, take him off the first line, maybe just like to put a little spark on him. But you don't need to do too much. You don't need to make it too drastic.
Yeah, and I'll say I tend to agree with you. I still think Chris Kreider is a great player, but he needs to start pulling his weight. Hopefully this does light a little bit of a fire underneath him and have him start to play better. One thing that I'll say, though, Coach Gerard Gallant has alluded to the possibility of switching up the defensive pairings a little bit tonight. So that's also rather interesting. He says he likes the Keandre Miller, Jacob Trouba, Ryan Lindgren, Adam Fox pairings best, but they're going to have to make it work with some different pairings here. I'm curious to see what those different pairings end up looking like. Eric, do you have any thoughts on a potential switch up on defense?
I mean, I like Fox and Lindgren, definitely. And, I also like Miller and Trouba. It's really just the third defensive pairing that I don't like. And it's really tough to say, because I don't want to see any of those top 4 defensemen be sent down to the third defensive pairing. So we obviously haven't sent anyone down, called anyone up. So at this point, I'm kind of just leaning towards keeping the defense as the way it is, because I don't like Trouba doesn't deserve to be a third line defenseman. Neither does Miller, and obviously Lindgren and Fox are going to stay up on top. So it's kind of just a tough situation right now based on what we have. So If I were Gerard Gallant right now, I would personally just keep it the same.
Yeah, and so as you mentioned, we don't have any official lines right now, despite being so close to game time, but we do have some line predictions from Forever Blue Shirts. So we'll go over the projected lines there. Artemi Panarin on the left wing, Zibanejad center, Capo Caco at the right wing. All right, let's go line by line, discuss this. Eric, I love this trio right here of Panarin, Zibanejad, and Kako. I think that this could be super productive, especially, as you mentioned, Islanders with the backup goalie in net tonight. Rangers have an opportunity here to hang up a bunch of goals into the back of the net, and I think that this pairing, or trio rather, of Panarin, Zibanejad, and Kako is the best way to get a spark on this team and start putting some goals in the back of the net, because I think that Panarin, obviously, his chance creation, his passing, otherworldly. It's the best in the league, in my opinion. And then Capo Caco is playing very aggressive. Zibanejad struggling at times, but he's still our best scorer. So this line, in my opinion, is one to be really excited about, because the Rangers are likely trying this one out tonight. So this will be one that we need to keep a close eye on, because I think that if the Rangers end up winning this game, it's going to be because of the production of points from this line in particular.
I mean, yeah, no, you're right. Looking at this line right in front of me, chef's kiss. Mwah. You got the best goal scorer on the team, the best passer in probably the entire league, and then you have a kid who's putting up points and is ready to break out into like a 60 to 70 point season. So these three together, we've never seen before. So this is like groundbreaking lines right here for the New York Rangers. And I can only see good things happening right now, unless just the apocalypse starts and everything just falls apart, which, you know, as a Rangers fan would be common. But
you always got to stay on your toes for potential apocalypse when you're a New York Rangers fan. But I will say, from this first line, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kako, the main prediction that I would throw out there from this line is that this propels Capo Caco to have that breakout. You know, like that's what I expect from this, because Panarin, Zibanejad, I think they're going to play excellently together. I mean, they're two of the best players in hockey in my eyes. But Capo Caco, as you mentioned, a kid who's starting to show flashes of breaking out. And I think that the three of them playing together, it's going to benefit Capo Caco the most. And I think that he could end up having a really solid game tonight. And if they continue with these lines, if the lines are successful, this could be what propels Caco into having that excellent season.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a sports bettor or anything, but if I saw a bet that said that Zibanejad or Kako were going to score a goal based off of a Panarin assist, I'd put like 200 on it right now. This line has the potential to do everything and anything right now.
For sure. I really, truly believe that as well. We got around 5 people in here right now. What's up? What's up? Let us know down below how excited you are for the game. Comment in the chat and let us know. We're excited to talk some hockey with you guys. But next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about the second line in the predictions tonight. So second line predictions, no Chris Kreider here. Forever Blue Shirts predicting Lafreniere left wing, Trocheck center, VC at the right wing. Now, Eric, that to me sounds like a pretty boom or bust line. I feel like that one can go either way. I like Trocheck. I like the way that he's playing, but I feel like a lot of Trocheck's success has kind of depended on the play of Artemi Panarin. So looking at this line here, Lafreniere has also been playing well. And I like the way that he's been moving the puck, and I like how aggressive he's been. But Eric, what are your thoughts on this, especially with Jimmy Vesey on the second line right wing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly agree with Jimmy Vesey being on the second line right now. I don't think he's deserved it or earned it just yet in the season. Chris Kreider down on the third line, it kind of frustrates me. You know, he hasn't lived up to his standards, but I don't think he deserves being in the bottom 6. So it's kind of just a frustrating thing to see him down there, you know? Obviously, Trocheck has played fine. Lafreniere has played decent, you know, deserving of the spot, but could be better. But Jimmy Vesey, I don't think he deserves it.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Vesey getting called up to the second line is definitely an interesting decision there. Again, Lafreniere, like the way he plays at times. I definitely think he needs to be a little bit better than he has been. Trocheck at center on the second line, I mean, that's a 2C that we were hoping for, and I think that he's been just about everything that we expected him to be this season. I'm definitely pleased with his play, but I'm curious to see how he plays alongside Vesey and Lafreniere tonight, because I think that, you know, I understand Chris Kreider being dropped down the lines, but all the way down to the third line now, that is a pretty drastic change there. That's a bold move by Gerard Gallant, and I think that having him play alongside Trocheck probably would have been more beneficial. I think if you had, because if Lafreniere has that ability to play both sides, I would have liked Kreider, Trocheck, and Lafreniere on the second line.
I would have liked that a lot more too.
Yeah.
And just before we continue, as of 28 seconds ago, we can confirm that these projected lines we're talking about are the official lines heading into the game.
Yep.
So this is no longer speculation. This is now predictions.
Yeah, so now we're just talking about how we think these lines are going to perform. Schnazzy, what's up to you? Hyped for this must-win game? Absolutely, super excited for this one. It's a big game, and I agree, it's a must-win. I think that the Rangers, and yeah, as you mentioned, these are the official lines right now. But the Rangers need to win this one, man. They have not been playing well recently. This is a rivalry game. I don't want to lose to the Islanders. This would just be really, really pitiful if we ended up blowing this one. But I also, Schnazzy, yes, Kreider on the second line. I much would have preferred that. But let's go ahead and dive into that third line that Schneider is on. But first, let me go ahead and block the bot that is spamming our chat. All right. So
that's how you know we made it big when we get bots.
that's how you know it. But shout out to everybody filtering in here. We're gonna go ahead and dive into this third line. Very interesting third line in the warm-ups for the Rangers tonight. Projected to be on the ice tonight. Chris Kreider left wing, Filip Chytil center, Vitaly Kravtsov third line right wing. Eric, give me your initial thoughts on that. Kreider being dropped down to the third line. I'm not sure that I really agree with that, but how do you think that he's going to play alongside Chytil and Kravtsov?
So just initial thoughts looking at this. I think it's a good line. You know, it's good depth, and all three players on it have talent. Now, I would like to see them be on the second line. Like that's a good second line like pairing right there, especially Chytil and Kreider. You know how I feel about Kravtsov. He's probably going to get injured like halfway through, and then someone like Ryan Carpenter is going to get brought up to the third line. But Kreider and Chytil, we haven't seen that much of them together throughout both of their careers, and I'm really interested to see how it's going to work. Because Chytil has a really nice shot, and so does Kreider. So it's kind of got this weird dynamic going on right now, where is Kravtsov on the right side going to kind of be like a playmaker type right now? You have this game against the Islanders, you know, it's going to be interesting to see. But I really do think that going into this game against the Islanders, who do have a very solid team right now, we might see a very top six heavy game coming out where the first line and the second line are going to run most of the show, and the third and fourth line are kind of just going to be there to let the top guys rest. That's just kind of the way that I'm looking at it right now. Obviously, there's no confirmation on that, but if you have Kreider on your third line, I could also see them playing a lot too. So it's kind of like a weird situation. I'm not used to seeing Kreider this far down, so I don't really know how to interpret it.
Well, I like the point that you made about Kreider and Chytil both having a deadly shot, and I think that could be really beneficial for the Rangers. This third line could actually be pretty productive in terms of points tonight. If Kreider goes ahead, puts the puck in the net, Chytil has the ability to do the same. But do we trust Vitaly Kravtsov to be the guy to dish the puck, be that playmaker, be that facilitator? That's where I start to get worried here, because I want to see Chytil continue to play well. He's been playing well all season long. Kreider needs a spark. Maybe this could be the spark, but that's where I'm saying maybe on the second line with Lafreniere and Trocheck would have been a better fit for him. I just think.
Yeah, and you also got to consider the fact that like Chytil is also just coming off of injury. You know, he played last game.
Yeah.
He didn't really make too much of an impact, but of course you won't. You're coming off of like a week break long of hockey. So maybe this game he'll have more of an impact now that it's his second game back. But I don't know. It's Chytil and Kravtsov both not playing a lot recently, compared to Kreider, who's not playing that well. It's like I feel like it's a 50-50 shot. This is either going to score like 2 goals this game, or it's going to cost us 2 goals.
Yeah, this is a shaky line without a doubt, and I think that this one's really boom or bust. But Schnazzy, thanks for the comment. Kravtsov maybe getting better looks going against an opposing third line now, hopefully. And I think that's definitely a solid point to make there. Maybe Kravtsov plays a little better on the third line, especially with the added talent around him and Chytil and Kreider. Maybe this is the Vitaly Kravtsov breakout game if he could play through it.
It could be. The Islanders, as much as I dislike the Islanders, I will give them props when they are due. I think Matt Barzal and Ilya Sorokin are great players. But the one thing that I can criticize them about without bias is that they don't have that much depth in their bottom six, which has really been holding them back. So to see like a solid third line for the Rangers right now, I don't even know who's on the Islanders third line, so don't ask me for names. But I just know that ours is probably better, knock on wood. Maybe playing against a third line who's not as good as ours could help benefit them. Chris Kreider on the third line going against guys who aren't that good, he could probably score maybe even a hat trick tonight. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And that's why I'm saying I think that third line grouping of Kreider, Chytil, Kravtsov, boom or bust. That's exactly how I'm looking at this one. This one can boom like crazy. This could be where most of our points come from tonight. But at the same time, that I do have some skepticism around the lack of chemistry with the three of these guys and a lack of trust in Krasov to be the facilitator and playmaker that Hedel and Kreider need him to be. So Kreider and Hedel, deadly shots. If Krasov can dish the puck, and maybe that's where you call upon the defenseman to really do some work with the facilitating and the playmaking, and hopefully get some good shots up through there. So let's go ahead and dive into the fourth line. Sammy Blais, Barclay Goodrow, and Carpenter's playing tonight. Ryan Reeves is the healthy scratch, so we have Carpenter going out there on that final line, and that's the final grouping. Eric, what are your thoughts on that one? For me, I actually have been really impressed with how Barclay Goodrow has played. I think that he's had a really solid start to the season, and yeah, I mean, I think he's carrying pretty much every fourth line grouping that we've put out there. But any thoughts on Blais, Goodrow, Carpenter?
I think it's a solid fourth line right now. We've had a little bit of an injury boom going on with the Rangers. It's a huge part of why we don't have as good of a record as we should. But, everyone's kind of coming back off the IR, and I'm kind of confident with these lines overall, especially the fourth line, because, depth has obviously always been a problem. And seeing Goodrow as the fourth line center, that actually gives me a lot of confidence, because I think Goodrow is good enough to maybe even be like a second line center on a really good team. Probably more average, like as like a third line center, but definitely deserves to be better than a fourth. If we didn't have Zibanejad, Trocheck, and Hedel, he'd be way up there right now. And Blais is extremely good defensively as well. Carpenter is kind of one of those guys that gets substituted in and out between him and Reeves, depending on the type of game that we're going to be playing. But I still do have faith in Carpenter. So, yeah, I think this line is going to be really good. They're not pure goal scorers. We're probably not going to see much point production coming out of them. But when they're on the ice, I'm not going to be fearful that the other team is going to score either. So I think it's a very neutral line that is going to do just overall good for the team.
Right, and I think that's exactly what you need from the fourth line, just solid, neutral line right there. And again, I've really been impressed with the way that Barclay Goodrow has played so far this season. So Blais, Goodrow, Carpenter, hopefully they're able to go out there and play well. Schnazzy says, really wish we still had Frank V and Mott. Matthew, shout out to you. Thanks for tuning in. He said every New York Rangers fan will be watching this game. Of course, got to tune in. This is a huge one for our Rangers. Must-win game, as Schnazzy mentioned earlier. Let's go ahead and talk about these defensive pairings. Miller, Trouba, Hayek, Fox, Jones, Schneider. What are your thoughts on it?
All right. Well, obviously, Ryan Lindgren did suffer an injury last game, so it is really tough to see him be out. He's one of our best defensemen, but if I'm being honest, to start this season, he hasn't been that productive. He's been kind of one of those guys who looks a little bit invisible on the ice. And as much as I love him, he doesn't cause us any problems, but he hasn't exactly helped that much. I feel like he has been inflated by Fox a little bit to start this season. So it is tough that we're going to have him out. However, we are going to see Hayek come back into the lineup. And, Libor Hayek is one of those guys who I've never truly been that much of a fan of. I think he is one of those defensemen that hurts us more than usual. But to start the season, seeing him switch in and out with Zach Jones, I think he's been better than Zach Jones. I think he's been playing fairly well for a player of his caliber. And I'm honestly not mad to see him back in the lineup. Pull this back up.
Yep.
You showed me for like 2 seconds.
Right there.
So when it comes to Miller and Trouba, to start off, it's interesting to see that Fox isn't on the first line, because Fox has clearly been our top defenseman this season. But the way that I interpret this is, without Lindgren to play like extra defensively, Fox doesn't have the ability to be as offensive as he likes to be. So having a defensive defenseman like Trouba and an offensive defenseman like Miller on the top pairing, it does kind of make sense. We need one guy up, one guy back, just in case anything poorly goes wrong. And then Hayek also does play more of a defensive defenseman game. So obviously you're not going to put Hayek on your top line. You got to bring him back a little bit. So at first I was a little confused, but now that I'm like really interpreting this, it does make sense to bring Fox down to the second line. I'm assuming in Gerard Gallant's mind right now, the top two defensive pairings are probably going to get like even playing time. It's really just going to be the third line that's holding us back with Jones and Schneider, where they're kind of like the liabilities here. They're definitely going to get the least playing time.
Well, at least we have Igor in that, that much we can be thankful for. Yeah. But yeah, Hayek, as Schnazzy just mentioned, Lindgren is a huge miss. Enormous shoes to fill for Hayek. That's absolutely true. Trying to fill the shoes of Lindgren is not going to be easy. And I think that putting him alongside Fox is probably for the best, because Fox can really mask some of the deficiencies of Hayek. And, I think that the Miller-Trouba pairing is actually I could see that working out quite well.
I think it's going to work well. I mean, they've played a lot together throughout this season and last season, just being like normal defensive partners. It's just interesting seeing them getting the top playing time, which is why I do predict that Fox and Hayek will also have similar playing time, maybe just a little bit less, but it has to happen with lingering out. You can't put Fox and Miller together when they're both in the offensive zone. You got to send one of them back down, and just unfortunately happens to be Fox.
Yep, rather unfortunate, but I think that's just the way that they have to play it tonight. But again, what do you have to make of Ryan Reaves being the healthy scratch again tonight? So I know that's not the first time this season that's happened, but thoughts on it, and do you think it's justified?
I think it is justified, honestly. Literally, the only reason that Ryan Reaves is on the team is to bring physicality to the game. He's the big guy who fights people and lays out hits. He doesn't put up points. He doesn't play defense or anything. He's literally just there to be physical. And the Islanders aren't a team that we need to be particularly physical with. In the playoffs, things are different. Ryan Reaves sucked during the playoffs, but we kept him in every game. So when things got intense, we could just punch someone in the face and just show them who's boss. We're going against the Islanders right now, who are a decently smaller team. They're not too physical. They're a goal-scoring team. And to counter that, we also need to be a defensive goal-scoring team. We don't need to beat up every Islanders player we come across tonight, despite the fact that they're our biggest rivals. We need someone who's going to contribute to the offense and the forecheck and the back check. So, I agree that Ryan Carpenter is definitely the better option here than Ryan Reaves.
Yeah, and I guess this tweet's indicating this is the 200th game with the Rangers for Artemi Panarin.
I didn't even realize that.
Pretty cool stuff.
I'll never forget where I was when Artemi Panarin signed.
Tell the story, man.
All right, I was in New York City. All right, so I'm from, just context, I'm from Long Island, so I don't go to New York City that often. But I just happened to be in New York City on July 1st, 2019, and I was like a block away from the NHL store. At that point, every NHL analyst was like, Artemi Panarin will sign with the New York Islanders, blah, 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 blah. I was so mad because I hated Panarin. I hated him. He always scored against us. And then I just got the tweet that was like, Artemi Panarin has signed a 7-year contract with the New York Rangers. Man, I sprinted. I did not pay attention to any crosswalks or anything. I made it to the NHL store, and I got like the 7th ever Artemi Panarin New York Rangers jersey ever printed. I spent like $600 on it. That's mad expensive. And then ever since then, he's been my favorite NHL player.
That's awesome.
I switched up real quick.
That's so cool. That really is awesome.
I'll never forget when Frankie Borelli tweeted, Artemi Panarin will be a New York Islander tomorrow. And I cried because I hate Frankie Borelli.
Well,
and now look at him. 200 games later.
200 games later, here he is, one of the best players in the NHL and leading our Rangers to many victories and hopefully leading them to a victory tonight. Matthew commented and said he's actually more concerned with Trouba's play than Hayek's. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
That's actually a valid concern. I can't even debate that one. Trouba has played very, I don't want to say selfishly or like foolishly, but he's been like making really poor decisions recently with the puck. I feel like he's trying to do too much and he needs to revert back to a simpler style of play. Hayek, on the other hand, has played with confidence. He kind of has like that motivation where he's like, damn, any day now I could be sent down to the AHL. And he's been playing very well. Every time we see him on the ice, he's fine. And I have zero complaints despite the way that he's played in previous seasons. But I feel like Trouba kind of just like regresses every season. We're paying him like, someone in the comments can correct me. It's like $6 to $8 million, somewhere in between. It's like way too much for the way that he's been playing ever since we signed him. But Trouba is definitely a liability. He takes stupid penalties. He makes stupid plays. And like that's why it's so frustrating because he's such a great captain. He's very good in the locker room and for the New York City community as well.
Yeah, base salary of $6 million. To answer your question, the cap hit is $8 million. He has an average annual value of $8 million. So, yes, he is getting paid quite a bit. In case anyone was wondering, the Rangers are wearing the reverse retros tonight. I think they're really sick.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, just saw that on Twitter. We're wearing the reverse retros, I think. Yep, Liberty Game Day. So wearing those. I'm excited. I think that they're really, really cool. I know we were talking about it the other night. The red on the pants is a little wonky on the TV screen, but
I have my own problems with the jerseys.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like pretty much the same jerseys as last reverse retro, but they just made the blue a little bit lighter. It's like, come on, man. We've had so many jerseys in the past for like an original 16. You could have come up with something.
Yeah,
but they're still cool.
I think they're cool. I just like, I don't know. I like the redesigned logo. I think it's fun to see.
It's just like, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying, like, why do the same thing back-to-back years when you have so much to work off of? That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough. Schnazzy with a comment that I would love for you to respond to in particular, since you're a big Breadman enjoyer. Panarin has to be better than he has recently. I feel like he's been making some odd passes. Now, I think that there's been a couple moments where, sure, that's true. But overall, I just think that he's been by far the best player on the Rangers offense. And I think that he's been setting up and making the best passes. So, yeah, maybe a few of them have been odd, but I will disagree in part with this one because I just think that, you know, you can't deny the fact that, I mean, he's had a number of multi-point games and he's been playing much more consistently at a high level than any of the rest of these guys.
I'm going to blow your mind right here. I actually agree with that.
Okay.
Now, Panarin obviously is my favorite player, and I do agree that he is still the best offensive player on the Rangers right now. But the problem is he started off the season really, really hot. You know, he was the third star of the month out of the entirety of the NHL for the month of October, and he's still the best player on the Rangers right now. But, you know, with his hot start, the last like 3 or 4 games, he hasn't done that much. You know, he's putting up like a point per game, but that's just like an average Artemi Panarin season, you know, it's just like an average superstar season where this isn't above and beyond like we saw at the start. And if we want to be good, especially with the rest of the offense lacking, he does kind of need to be a little bit better. You know, if you would have asked me last week and we made a video about this, go check it out. If Artemi Panarin would win the Hart Trophy, I would have said yes, definitely 100%. He has the opportunity to continue this run that he's on and make a very strong case for the Hart Trophy. If you were to ask me right now, I would say out of everyone in the NHL, he'd probably not even be in the top 5. He has had a little bit of a drop off right now. Definitely still top 10. Don't get me wrong. I love my Breadman, but he has dropped off just quite a little bit. And I'm not saying he's playing bad, but he's not playing as well as he did to start the season, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I won't disagree with you, but I think that's true for all of the New York Rangers players, man. To be honest, I thought they started off the season really strong, especially that big win over Tampa. A few nice wins to open up the season. And then since then, it's been a lot of losing, overtime losing, hasn't been too stellar from them. So I think, yeah, you can say that's true for Panarin, but you have to say it's true for the rest of the team. And I think that's kind of what Schnazzy was saying as well. As I'll read his comment, his year as a whole is great. Just seems like his last game was off, which, you know, completely valid.
Yeah, and I mean, quick shout out to Puck Empire on Instagram. He does weekly updates on his projections for all the different trophies in the NHL, giving his top 5s and stuff. So a lot of like my knowledge on who's doing well in the league does come off of that. So check him out. Like obviously I know now that Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, they're all doing phenomenal. It's hard to follow every team when we're this deep into the Rangers lore, you know?
For sure.
But yeah, no. I mean, I think Artemi Panarin does have a new opportunity on the first line playing with Zibanejad and Kakko. I think this is a fresh start for him, despite having like 1 or 2 bad games recently. And I do think he's going to perform really well. I do think also that the rest of that first line is going to play phenomenally tonight. I think that if we do come out with a win, it's going to be thanks to that first line.
I agree. And before we wrap, we'll respond to this question comment from Matthew. It is a question. He said, "Are you aware that Lafreniere is by far the best defensive player on the team, aside from Shesty?" Thoughts?
Or is that including Fox? Because
sounds like he's trying to include everybody. Best on the team, he said. I mean, Lafreniere is very aggressive, definitely a good defensive forward, but best on the team, I don't know. Adam Fox is
he might be one of our best defensive forwards. I will give you that. But if we're including Adam Fox, I don't know. I mean, he's definitely played better defense than the rest of our defense, but I don't know, man. That might be a controversial take. My take might be controversial too. I can't lie though. Just while it's up, Alexis Lafreniere has played phenomenally. He doesn't turn over the puck very often, and when the other team is taking the puck up, he does forecheck and backcheck very, very strongly. And he is like we're not hurt when he's out there. He might not be putting up points, but he does play really great.
Yeah, I think that's actually what you just mentioned is what
Yeah.
Matthew was referring to, takeaways, giveaways. He's killing that statistic. So, you know, good stuff there. And hello, Spooner W. Hello. And it's game time, guys. So we're going to go ahead and sign off and watch the game. Let's go Rangers, of course. Super excited to see these new lines and see how they unfold. The boomer bust third line is kind of making me a little anxious for this game. But again, I see the potential. I see the vision. Let's hope that the vision gets carried through by the players. But that first line, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kakko, that one also has me really excited. I feel like this could be a very, very big game from the Rangers against a backup goalie for the Islanders. So hopefully we're able to get back to our winning ways here against that backup. And I guess we'll see, you know, if these new and revamped lines can go ahead and lead us to victory. But yes, love you all spamming in the chat. LGR for sure. Let's go Rangers. Super excited for this game. We're going to go ahead and tune in, but we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers!